Welcome to Cooksey the Coach. I don't know where Coach is. He's MIA, but we got the most controversial guy on YouTube, at least in the motorsports industry. Johnny, what's happening? Johnny Hopper.
I think I should start changing my name to Alex Jones. Is just what I really should start doing.
No, because Alex Jones says stuff that doesn't come up true. I'm starting to think that, and you and I, we're going to start with Eli Tomac. You come up with this theory that maybe they took his parts. You didn't even say they took his parts. You said maybe this happened because it's happened so many times in the past that we know of for fact multiple times. I mean, Mike Kudrowski, Jean-Michel Bale. There's so many times this has happened. I told you I think you're crazy, but I don't know, man. Where you at right now with this?
I've gotten a lot of DMs that I can't tell and I can't show them to people because everyone is there. There's more implications that could happen, but no, it happens. Has it happened to Tomac? Only Tomac and Kawasaki really know. We can all speculate, which that's what you and I are doing. That's what Pulp is doing. That's what pretty much any other podcast does.
People speculate.
Yes. Yes, they banter and they guess to see what's happening. So, and this whole topic, dude, I'm so over this topic. It's literally beating a dead horse that's already died because it's been so overdone. I talked with Jace for 45 minutes on this topic, and so I guess I can go more extensively into that with him. But
that's Jace from Gypsy Tales, people.
Yes, with Gypsy Tales. But I'm over it. It either happened or has happened or it is going to happen. I don't know. It could. Well, everything could.
We've talked about it quite a bit, and I don't have an issue with you saying it maybe happened and bringing it up. Because like I said, how many times in history? There's so many times. If you're going to try and tell me that it's a stupid argument and it's never happened, why do we have so many examples for Jason Thomas and Steve Mathis to attack you like it's ludicrous? Fuck those guys, man. I'm sorry. That's just stupid on their part because it has happened. And like I said, at the time, my personal opinion on Tomac is he's gone. He checks out mentally. He wins when he can. He's hanging around, doing what he does. And then last year, the year before, Kawasaki would go, okay, what's wrong, Eli? And pamper to him, spend the extra days testing to get him comfortable. This year, they're like, no, you've got the bike. Show up on Sunday. We'll make a couple adjustments, but we're not bending over backwards for a guy who's leaving.
Yeah, that's pretty much the whole gist of it. You just hit the nail on the coffin, per se. I've used this quote a few times, but it's by Mark Twain. If you're on the side of the majority, you should stop and reflect. And why is the whole industry just an uproar about a hypothetical? It makes you kind of wonder, is there really, it could be more plausible than what people are leading on to. Because what happens when somebody is absolutely in the wrong? They right away go on the defensive, and the whole industry is going on a defensive because is it happening in this situation? I don't know. Maybe. Possibly.
Hold on.
But it's happened in the past.
It's not the whole industry. It's the talking heads that are all on payroll with the same organization that are going after you, Johnny. You notice that? Everyone outside of that's going, yeah, you're probably right, Johnny. That's probably happening. Am I wrong in assuming that?
No, absolutely. There's a lot of people that don't have a platform to speak out. And the only ones that I'm hearing from is from the people that have a platform to get attention, per se. But you're absolutely right. Tomac is leaving. Kawasaki is a huge corporation. They don't just make motorcycles. And what is the incentive for them to really give back to Tomac? Tomac is leaving. They've got a guy that's AC that's sitting there. And if I was a team manager, I'd be thinking of the future of the team. And I probably have some higher ups telling me, hey guys, we need to not focus on this year. We need to look at 10 years from now because obviously things are changing. And is Tomac in that picture? Morally, I would like to think so, but people do a lot of really shitty things for money. So it makes you wonder. And I'm jaded because I come from a tad bit of a financial background. I've dealt with guys that have obscene amount of money and they do a lot of shitty stuff for the wrong reasons.
Because they can.
Because they can. Because they can.
And it's funny how yeah, we could go on a whole tangent here.
Yeah.
Coach just texted me. Coach Rob is apparently he's out in San Diego, people, and he's been enjoying the beach all day. So I don't know if he can't get service or what, but he texted me and told me he's logging in now. So at any moment, Coach is going to jump in here. But we're gonna move on here because we've got I don't know how long I got you, Hopper, but I want to utilize all of it while we do have you, because you're not afraid to pull punches and you call it how you see it, and that's all I ask for. So what did you think of that second moto? So Tomac, that cross jump on Roxon, that was pretty gnarly. I saw that live. I was like, whoa, that was very aggressive. That was something you only see Tomac do when he's passing Cincerillo.
I thought the Swole and Lawrence cross jump was worse because it obviously took out Jet.
Yes, it was, but I don't think that was purpose.
But that wasn't intentional. Yes. And if anybody that has raced professionally, this happens all the time. And it's kind of an FU to the other rider that you're saying, hey, I'm faster than you. I'm coming through here. It's a confidence thing, is because motorcycle racing is, these guys are fighter pilots. This is going to war. And what's one way to intimidate somebody is you intimidate them by thinking that they might potentially, their well-being might be at jeopardy if they get in touch with you. So this is Tomac doing his usual stuff, which I like to see. I don't want to see people get hurt, and these guys are professionals. They know when to check up and that sort of thing. But to me, it was more of a head game. It was the Cooper Webb, what Cooper Webb was been doing to Kenny and Supercross type of an attitude with Tomac, which I didn't see anything wrong with it.
Well, and I look at those situations, and Barsha is a guy I like to talk about a lot when it comes to this. If you know a guy is willing to take you both down and he's coming at you, you got to let go, because you're like, well, this dude's an idiot. He's going to take us both out. And you see how many guys get out of Barsha's way because he's willing to go for mutually assured destruction. But it plays into his favor how many times?
In a roundabout way, is because there's, in the pits, riders collectively, if you piss off too many people, there's going to be a stigma and people are going to sort of be going after you, because again, if you're trying to play dirty and you're going to try to hurt somebody, not intentionally, but potentially have it could get physical. It's a no-no. So the riders will kind of stand up for themselves, and in a roundabout way, they'll defend each other on the track. So yes, Barsha plays that game, and he's one of the guys that can get away with it because he's got enough confidence that he's able to continue to do that and kind of say F you to the rest of the field. But he has toned it down a lot. And I think he's toned it down a lot just because of the sheer fact is it's 1 versus 39.
Yeah. And we're going to take a quick break, and I'm going to bring in Coach Rob now. He's texting me. He needs a link. So it wouldn't be the Cooksey and Coach show.
You already said that to him like 3 times.
So you got the same one I sent him. Okay. But yes, we're going to send it to him, and hopefully we'll get him in here. All right, guys, we're back. Perfect. And we have Coach Rob out in San Diego. You finally got service. What happened?
Hey, good morning, man. Good afternoon. My gosh. No, just we went out. I apologize. I had us going off in about 20 minutes. And so we ran into town to get some fresh seafood because we hear it's just absolutely incredible out here in San Diego. And I thought I had time. So thanks for the text message. But I had the punch start time at 5:30. My bad.
Rob, let's be real. You just got married. You guys were probably doing a quickie and you're like, oh, crap, man. I got to get my clothes on and I got to get on this podcast.
Oh, just a shirt, man. We don't need to see
anything.
I'll
tell you what, I'll go with that. There you go. I'll tell you what, Johnny, I'm going to go with because that's a hell of a better explanation than going to the seafood market to get fresh seafood. So I'm going to take yours. How about that? Let's start over. Let me go back and use that explanation. That's a much better and a more manly one than I'm getting seafood.
Oh, that's horrible. Okay, so we touched on Johnny and the Kawasaki parts, and he didn't really want to go there because he feels like he's beat a horse to death. I don't think he has. I think it's And like I said, the long story short, we both are okay with it because we don't know exactly what's happening. But what's your take on that whole thing, Coach?
I could go on a whole dissertation on this whole side of it because I thought it was interesting how Johnny was essentially just trying to do kind of a funny video, typical Johnny, whether he feels it sincerely or he doesn't, he put it out there. That's his opinion. Then you look at the amount of messaging that he got from people, both behind the scenes, as well as if we just saw a recent text message, or excuse me, a recent video saying, hey, yeah, that shit happens all the time. It happened to me. And then all of a sudden it went radio silent. I like Johnny's latest video about the inconsistencies of how the second moto comes out just double barrels ablazing. How do you not think that there's something to that? Yeah, has been showing that information is new. I don't think that what Johnny exposed, I don't want to pick on any of the listeners. I think it's relatively naive to think that Johnny, who's been around the sport for forever on both that racing side as well as, now a journalistic side, he knows a lot more than people give him credit for. And I think it all was vindicated when Davey Millsaps made the comments that he made. And then we bring it up to current time. I think certainly there's a lot of validity to what Johnny has said. The inconsistencies with Tomac, I've said it when we found out that he was going to Yamaha. If he wins, it's because he wants to win and it's him. If he loses, it's because he doesn't get along with the bike and something's wrong with it. He's in a win-win situation and will be, would he get a 2-year deal with Yamaha or 1-year deal?
I thought it was 1 year. I'm sure there'll be an option if he does good to re-up it. But
like we said, he's going to use that card for the next year.
I'll say this, Johnny, you laid a one-sided beat down on both Mathis and JT. And if anyone's credibility is shaken, I would say it's both those guys, because they both, like you said, everybody knows this happens. And for them to come out so adamantly, whose agenda are they pushing? That's what I want to ask. And I want to ask people who are listening to them, really? You're going to trust those guys after that?
The only thing that I would say is there's a space for all of us, and the space is very small. So why don't we all do our due diligence and stop gatekeeping and try to build each other up so that we can ultimately grow the sport and obtain new listeners to have a passion with this, like us three in this podcast.
Fair enough. And then how about Dylan Ferrandis? Dude, he's got a stranglehold on this thing. Coach, what did you see out there with Dylan?
This track was so conducive for that European riding style. You could talk 250 class, you could talk 450 class. You look at that European GP type of track, it's not one that we're used to. And when we get to the 250s, we'll talk a little bit about, you had to open that track up. Ferrandis at the very, very opening lap came out. He was absolutely opening the doors in every corner and was see you later gone. And it was very, very impressive to see him from, and hey, look at when was the last time we saw Ferrandis get a hold? Nobody's going to have anything for him. Boy, did he make a convincing statement of that. Definitely his type of track.
Johnny, can you hear, is Coach cutting out on your end too?
Yeah, his bandwidth is just slow wherever he's at.
Yeah. Okay. No worries.
Yeah. Internet, damn Spectrum.
Right. California hippies, the liberals out there got him shut down.
Sorry. Yeah. Let's not Trump 2020.
No, I'm okay with the wall. Let's just crease it right around California. So, Jake, I don't know how to say his last name. Coach, do you?
Yes, sir. Mr. Pinhancos himself. Pinhancos.
Looks like he's joined us. Jake, are you there,
brother? Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Hey, you want to click on the video or are you shy?
I am trying to figure that out. I've never used Zoom before.
Bottom left. Anyway, so we got a guy who rode that track, the European style, Coach. It'd be interesting to hear his thoughts on the prep, because it seems like even Southwick and Redbud this year weren't as deep as some of the other tracks.
Jake, where does your heritage originate from?
My dad's from Portugal originally. My mom's like a mix between French and a couple other things.
Johnny, we avoid race on this program.
Oh, okay. The reason why
we don't see color
is because all the riders have got like their own little caricature, per se. is everyone's got their own little drawing of their characters. And dude, because I'm a dumbass that skipped a bunch of school and I can't pronounce very well, your last name is like perfect for pina colada. And so I could see you on your dirt bike and have this little, it'd be, you know, I just think it'd be badass is what I think it would be.
So Jake, tell us a little bit about your program.
Oh, hey, the way we're going with
Coach is delayed, so sorry about that. It keeps jumping in.
but Jake, my bad.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead. Jake, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about your program and what you're racing this year.
What I'm racing, you know, I'm picking the closest ones. It's tough, you know, working full time and trying to pick and choose which races to go to. I can't really travel across country all the time. Is the closest ones? I think the next one's going to be Unadilla for me. I'm signed up for Spring Creek, but I haven't got the acceptance yet, so that's still up in the air. And then Budds Creek after that. Those are the set races for me. But as far as that, it's you know, it's tough trying to go. As much as I'd like to race them all, yeah, I got to pick and choose.
What now, is this your rookie season or how many years? 'Cause I'm not
officially this is going to be my third season, but I've never completed like a full set of rounds.
Nice. And then do you race Supercross too?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, there's nowhere for me to really practice, and it's tough for me to get down south to train on it. And I know that's a different ballgame from motocross. You got to be actively grinding and staying, you know, up to date with your riding, and it's tough. So I that's not really on my schedule right now.
So it's brutal. So you're working full time and racing the nationals. What do you do for work, and how the hell do you manage to train?
You know, you find time management is definitely a big thing. You know, I full-time construction worker. Officially I'm an operator, so I run machines, excavators, loaders, rollers, whatever. But I do most handwork most days, and usually it's wake up 5:30, get home 3 to 6, sometimes even later. But you know, that off time 6 to 9 p.m., you know, I rest a little bit, I do my training, and then start back over the next day. And you know, in between, when I have extra time, I get ready for riding during the week or to leave for the nationals at the weekend.
Johnny?
I was just going to say, Jake, you're a true privateer. I hate this whole where we've got satellite teams that say that they're privateers, but they've got 4 bikes, they've got a semi, and you know, they still fly their riders to the races, where you're busting your ass and then you're driving like 18 hours. You probably haven't been able to recover a lot because you've been in the car for an extensive amount of period. And now, you know, as you said on Instagram, one of the most stressful things is trying to qualify, because you have to put down a super, super fast lap, and you more than likely probably didn't get to ride the track the day before on press day. So you're already at a disadvantage, and it just sucks, man. So massive amount of respect to you. And I want to know, how's your motorcycle? That track looked like it was just overheating everybody's bikes and they were all blowing up. Like, is your bike even rideable for the next races?
Yeah, it's definitely rideable. I just got the top end done, got everything sorted out with my mechanic. The bike has 60 hours on it, and it's completely stock. Apart from the muffler, there's nothing done on my bike, and I think that's the only reason it's still going, because it doesn't have all the thousands of dollars worth of tuning going into the motor. So it can, you know, the longevity of it is much better. And the bike I'm on now, I ran the entire outdoor season last year with it, so I'm surprised it's still going.
So you have a 60 hours on a 250 and it's stock, and
Yep.
you scored points at Southwick, a power track. Hats off, dude. That's badass.
Thank you.
Damn. Coach, what do you got for him?
Well, it's just, it to me is the ultimate story. Like I shared with you guys off the scenes, you know, I've been fortunate enough to work with Jake since he was on 85s. And I don't say this to embarrass Jake, because he's a very humble young man, but he is literally a pit bull. I mean, he will go to the death to finish a workout, to get to the races. It's one of the reasons why we've invested so much into him, because the guy epitomizes what Moto E is all about. And that is I just want you to race from the second the gate drops to when you cross the finish line. And every year that Jake's been to Loretta's, that's exactly what you saw. Win, lose, or draw, stuff happens. It's just the nature of the beast. He'll pick the bike up, he'll pick the bike up more times than RJ Hampshire. Let's put it that way.
That's a bold statement right there, because RJ is really trying to set a record with that.
What Jake will out. If Jake gets taken out 7 times, he will still get that bike up and go. And in all seriousness, though, I mean, Jake just epitomizes to me, like Hopper said, what this sport is all about. It's the guy that's grinding it off the track. It's the guy grinding it to get to the track. And then the one that goes out there and appreciates everything that he's got. That's what I love about the second half of the field, and hey, I'm sure Jake would not be upset if he all of a sudden got offered a job in a rig. He would take that every chance he got. But it doesn't, like Johnny said, it doesn't represent the other 90% of the people that are in the race. And I hope the listeners really understand what Jake's talking about. Riding a bike with 60 hours on it and not modding it out because of the cost and the lack of reliability, and then to go out and on one of the most difficult tracks of the year and to get those types of positions are unbelievable. Jake, do you mind sharing with everybody what you had mentioned about your gate pick for the second moto? I think this is pretty interesting.
So on the sheet they give you when you show up and you get your transponder, it gives you a list of the rundown, the times of what's happening throughout the day. And second moto, it's 3:15 as gate drop. So I figure I show up 20 minutes early. Gives you time to load into the gate or whatnot. So I got down to the line at 2:51, which was a minute past when you were supposed to show up for pre-staging. So I lost my 19th gate pick. I got sent to, I think I loaded the gate 42nd, and I was in the far inside.
Oh, that was brutal too. And I was watching that far inside. It was super soft. That's gnarly.
After having such a great first moto and missing it literally by 1 minute,
so
to be able to take advantage of that.
Were they calling it through the pits? And this isn't your first national. Like, you kind of knew it though, right?
I kind of did. They don't call it through the pits. It was more so I actually never knew there's a second side to the sheet, because I have it taped on my fridge in the camper. Yeah, I have it taped on my fridge, so I know what's happening throughout the day. I didn't know there was a backside to it, so that didn't even cross my mind. I thought I had plenty of time to get down there, but you live and learn.
Fair enough. Hey, well, next time you get 19th, you'll at least get your spot. Johnny, You had a question.
Oh, that probably didn't help you coming through the pack that second moto there. But no, I just was going to say, dude, as far as having a completely stock bike, this is where I have a different view more than basically everybody out there, where I feel like, just from what coach said, as far as your work ethic, you give yourself the same sort of standards as like being at the baker's factory and a factory bike. You're a top 10 guy all day. Anybody that holds their pro license and is qualified for these races, how to ride a motorcycle. You just need a better program, a better nutritionist, just the whole extra little bit of, it's no more of being like in the novice class where if you jump a double, you're going to be in the lead. It's now all about milliseconds. And I think the bike has a lot more to do and the program than what people think at the professional level. So just hats off to you, man. I wish you had some better luck with obtaining some of the sponsorship, because unfortunately there is a huge disparity between when you're professional and amateur. It seems like the opportunities are greater when you're an amateur, and then once you go pro, it's very difficult to get in the spotlight, to get the better attention, to get the support. So just hats off to you, brother, and much love and respect.
So Jake, where are you going to take this with the sport? What's your 3-year plan, your 5-year plan, or even your 1-year plan?
Well, we'll start with a 3-year plan. So obviously I'm working full time, and most of that is just saving money. Eventually I want to, shut that down and just put a full year on the road, do every race, like full commitment into a solid year to see if I can make something out of that. I want to get to the 450s. I want to be one of those top 10 guys. It's tough doing what I do, but you know, that's the ultimate goal for me.
And do you have a set year that you were ready to jump right in?
Honestly, for the, you know, because I started paying for most of the stuff for myself. It's probably 3 years down the road.
And how old are you now?
I'm 23.
So you're 23. So you're looking at 25 going all in, and the sport is changing. Does that concern you at all with age, or do you think if you stay healthy?
No, I think if you stay healthy, age doesn't really play a factor. You know, obviously people are getting faster, and you know, young kids are coming up. But then again, you look at the 450 class. You know, you got a range of people from teenagers to, you know, people in their late 20s. Honestly, I don't feel age is a factor if you're keeping up with your program and everything that goes into riding.
Johnny, you want to ask him some stuff?
Jake, I was going to say, have you had a huge, massive injury yet that is hurting you moving forward? Is it something that bothers you, or have you been pretty healthy up to this point? Because 23 years of racing dirt bikes is a lot.
Yeah. No, I haven't had any major injuries. I've had a few ACLs, a couple broken bones, and my shoulder done a couple times, but it doesn't stop me from training. I don't really feel it in the background, but nothing major up to this point.
Dude, how badass are motocrossers at this level where he goes, oh, just a few ACLs
And his shoulder.
and a shoulder, Johnny.
Those are retirement injuries in any other sport.
Yeah.
In motocross, it's just like, oh yeah, I'm good.
Well, and it's frustrating for me because, you know, whenever I get an opportunity to speak in front of people and we bring up the importance of strength and flexibility, nutrition, sleep, people go, oh yeah, whatever. And yet you look at Jake, how many people has he outlasted? You know, you've got to be in it to win it. We hear that all the time. And yet here you are, like you said, Johnny, at 23 years old, one of the 40 fastest dudes in the world. But it doesn't just fall on your lap. You don't just all of a sudden get to that eligibility. We refer to it in the athletic world as athletic maturity. You know, each time the gate drops, you learn a little bit more, you get a little bit craftier, you get more of the important elements. You can even look at the guys. This gets more into the psychological aspects of performance, but you've got a lot of guys that don't know how to win the war. They only know or only think about just right here, right now. Whether we're talking about Jet or we're talking about, you know, one of the 450 riders, they know, okay, I'm maybe not the fastest guy today, but to go and wad myself up. I mean, hate to say it, not to add salt into the wound to somebody like a Faulkner, but hasn't finished the last 3 Supercross seasons, not because of the lack of speed, but because of, unfortunately, substantial injuries. And that's where I really want to give Jake credit, because he didn't ride when he had torn ACLs. He didn't ride when his shoulder was jacked up. We did not get back on the motorcycle until we were, I mean, are we ever 100%? No, but he's not out there like a lame duck. And that longevity, it's so frustrating for me because, I mean, I don't know if you guys follow me on Instagram, but that's why I gave Myrtle props. You know, when Hunter Lawrence was injured, what did he do? Now, I'm not saying he was the gospel. I'm sure everybody had a say in it, particularly Hunter's dad, Hunter himself, but you didn't see Myrtle out there saying, we're going to go race him. We're going to go race him. We don't care if your health is in jeopardy. We know that if you ride and you're injured, you're only going to get hurt worse the second time. We're seeing it. Michaela and I were talking about this with Martin being out there. You know, if he's not out there, he's being a pansy. And if he is out there, they're like, well, why is he not winning? And it doesn't, I love when the broadcast goes, oh, he's a gritty guy. No, that's really, really foolish. Jeremy Martin has proven that he has the championship potential. If I was a team owner and I'm looking to buy or bring somebody on as a new rider, why do I want somebody that's been beat and battered? It's, you know, I understand if you've never won a championship, you need to earn your stripes, but he's earned his stripes. I just think that's bad counsel. I don't know who Jeremy's agent is. And I don't, you know, again, I don't know any of the background scene, but I think Jeremy Martin has earned his stripes where he shouldn't have to be out there. I respect the fact that he feels determined enough to do it, 2 different sides of the coin, but our sport almost mandates that out of Jeremy. And I think that's the sad part, because once you've earned that reputation, you've earned the results, you should be able to say, look, I'm simply not going to ride because I'm not 100% and I'll be back when I can. And again, I'm not naive. I know it's contract season and all that, but man, poor Jeremy. I just don't think he should have to be out there. It goes back to, like you said, Johnny, you know, props Jake for waiting to come back when you're healthy, coming back and doing it when you know that you're as close to 100% as possible. And look at you, you're still strong. You said it yourself. You don't have anything that really is pushing you down the side of, yeah, can I do this or not? You know you can, and you've got the physical body with the athletic maturity, which is, to me, the perfect combo at this point in your career.
So
Yeah,
Jake, you can share as much as you want or as little as you want, but I'm curious, as a privateer on this series, doesn't seem to be a lot of money to be made. Like, are you shelling out a lot more than you're making, or how does it work? Because it does, I mean, if you want to share any of the finances, you can. If not, do you make more money in off-season races? Where do you make money as a pro these days?
Yeah, I don't mind sharing a little bit. For Southwick specifically, probably where I finish, I'll probably make $800 out of the weekend. That'll cover gas money and entry fee. Obviously, I didn't have to travel very far, 2 hours to get to Southwick. I spent $1,200 to get the bike ready, and then we spent 12 grand to get the motorhome up and running, get everything fixed, get some electrical problems dealt with. It's definitely dishing out more than you're making as a privateer. Because if you're not finishing in those top 10, you're not making much money to, you know, go back and get everything dialed for the next race. You know, most of it's from working. I make more money if I just worked and not race. I make more money, but you know, I love it. I'll go back every weekend if I can.
And that's it. It's a sport of passion. And I wish there were more money, but we're working on ways to kind of bring that to light. But is there any contingency money? Do you get any money from KTM or anyone on top of that for the finish?
Yeah, I have contingencies for Fox and or Shift as it is that I'm wearing right now. They'll pay bonuses if you get into the top 10.
Okay, so you got to get top 10 to get those. Okay, cool. Johnny, you got another question?
Oh,
I heard you starting to go there, so I figured I would call it. What are you going to say, Johnny? Oh, no. Oh, I'm sorry, Jake. I can tell by the look in his face. This might be bad.
No, we won't get into this. It's you take a rider like Jake that is super talented, super passionate, and unfortunately, the sport has a way of riding these guys to death and putting them away wet. You know, they're forgotten about. They're just not taken care of. And it's a shame, whether it's an injury or something else that happens. Most guys that I've talked to that are out of the sport now that were professionals, they are fairly salty on how everything ended up. But that's for another topic. As far as going back to with Rob, it's a shame you got somebody like Jeremy Martin, that is a guy that should be winning the races. Like, no, hands down, this guy should be winning. And him finishing 11th and like 14th is just, it's just sad. This is one of the roughest tracks out there that you don't get a break. It's constantly move, move, move. And if you have fingers, wrists, motocross and supercross has a bad way of, you want to hide all your injuries. And so for them even saying that this is what's going on, I can't help but think that there might be something else going on as far as what's really bothering him. He's not given the entire story, but it's a shame that he feels that he needs to be out there. And it's a culture problem. It's, I guess, not so much an industry problem, because I'm just going to say it, just speculation. You're only as good as your last race. And it's a shame to push somebody that is somebody that is a legend in the sport and kind of put them in a position to where they have to choose their health over what really the right thing to do is. And same thing with Jake. Like, these guys, you give them the opportunity, they're going to dig, they're going to give everything to the sport. And it's just a shame not to see a lot of it being given back to them. And yeah, I'm just digressing. I'm just going to shut up.
No. Okay. Hold on. So Coach Johnny and I we're pissed off that people don't tell us what injuries are. This isn't hockey. This isn't UFC. I'm not going to go out and attack it. As a rider, do you want to hide an injury, or do you want to go with the injury? Because I know when I was sick, or I knew my competitor was sick, if they were sick and I beat them, I was like, okay. But if they were sick and they beat me, I'm like, oh my God, I got beat by a sick guy. Is there any advantage to hiding an injury at a guy at your level, Jake?
I don't think there is. I know the teams, say Top Rider, Faulkner, Martin, Hampshire, if they get a minor injury, a small wrist fracture, foot fracture, they'll try to cover it up as much as possible, because I know those guys try to find out about each other. I don't think there's anything to covering it up. If you have an injury, you don't have to blurt it out on social media and let everybody know, oh, I'm hurt, I'm gonna try to race. But I don't think there's any shame or in going out there. If you got injured, just own up to it. There's nothing you're not going to get anything out of trying to hide an injury and then trying to go race and then getting hurt even worse than you already are. Even if it's something minor, it can turn into something major.
So you're not going to aim for Jeremy Martin's foot if you know it's hurt?
No. No.
I know. Well, and honestly, let's be real. You're riding a stock bike. How is it when you're next to that guy? Like if they pull up next to you and you're drag racing when it's freshly ripped, is it even close?
No, it's not. I know I'm going to get outpulled, but that's not going to stop me from trying.
The one thing that I think has got to be discussed is, we've had some people that have left us some pretty nasty messages on whether it's YouTube comments or some direct messages. And that's cool. Like we always say, we have thick skin. As Hopper says, let's have some adult conversation. Let's keep it cordial. The one thing that I want every listener to understand is, what other sport do we have our top riders that are not getting paid? So if you look at a factory team, the truck driver's getting paid, the team manager's getting paid, the mechanic's getting paid, the people that are out putting the show on for us, a lot of those guys are not even getting paid. It's bonuses only. And like Hopper said, it's this culture that we've created, like, well, they should just be thankful that they've got an opportunity to race, right? They have an opportunity to possibly win bonuses. But yet the mechanic got paid, team manager got paid, the truck driver got paid. Now let's take it into the realm of an injury. We just had a pretty big fight last night. Not the injury that occurred in the fight.
Not at the track, the UFC fight.
At the UFC fight, okay. Can you imagine if, let's just say, one of those two fighters, and I'm being dead serious, what if one of them just accidentally missed a step down a stair, leaving a restaurant, 3 steps, misses it, puts his hand out, breaks his wrist? Do you think they still were going to fight last night? They would say, look, we got to postpone this because we want these 2 guys to come back at 100%. Now it's different. We're trying to get 42 healthy guys on the starting gate versus 2. I'm not an idiot. I understand statistics, but think about it. The idea that we are okay with saying, you know what, this guy's got a blown out shoulder, 2 broke fingers and a scaphoid, but we're going to go ahead and see what he can do. That's pretty demented in my mindset. Now, again, the series goes on, right? It waits for nobody. As Johnny said, you're only as good as your last competition. But I find it awfully interesting where you wouldn't see the UFC guys hiding that somebody got injured. They would just call it for what it is and say, all right, this is what we're going to do. Our riders do not have that same luxury. If you say, look, I fell down and maybe I didn't compound fracture my wrist, but I got it hurt. They're like, shh, we're not going to put a hard cast on it. We're going to wrap it. We're going to put a brace on it, put your jersey over it. And we're just going to try to fake it until we can make it. And I just think, because we'll get some people that'll leave comments below in the YouTube comments, or they'll DM us and say, man, it's a sport of passion. Jake will do it every weekend he gets. Yeah, we understand that. We get it. We've been there. We're not naive, but does that make it right? That's my point. Yes, Jake is like I told you, he's like a pit bull in a fight. He loves to race his dirt bike and will do it at every chance he gets. But he's done a great job of not doing it when he's injured. And that's why at 23, hasn't had any significant injuries, because he's been strong. You see how this rhetorical circle, it's, if we want this, and that's what I'm trying to get across here at the end of this illustration is, we talk about the sports not growing. Why? What's the attrition rate? What's the cause of the attrition rate? Yes, it's expensive. Yes, they're not making any money. But you look at the guys that Jake has outlasted that had factory rides at Loretta's. They're not even in the sport anymore. Jake is. If we want the sport to grow, we've got to have longevity. We have to create durability. That's my job. That's the whole mission of Moto E, is to build athletes that can go the distance. However, when you've got a system that, look at some of these guys that have made it through the amateur ranks and they finally get a 2-year deal, they don't even get the second year and they're clipped.
Yeah.
Whether it be for injury, burnout, lack of results, which we all understand.
Johnny,
Jake, this is a tough question. So please plead the fifth if you don't want to answer it. Hypothetically, let's say you're in a position to where you have a family or you just can't pay your bills. Do you just, because you're a professional athlete, and we all know that you're a professional athlete, but would you stop racing and just go work full time, or would you continue the dream of racing professionally, knowing that the financial burden is on you for just, you were in a bad place financially? Does that make sense? Do you understand the question?
Yeah, that makes sense. No, I'd walk away. Um, as far as my career goes, I've done pretty much everything you can do as an amateur. I've made it to the professional level. I know I've raced on this stage. Um, as far as I'm content with how my career is gone. I'd walk away if that was the decision.
Thank you for being honest, dude. And it's unfortunate that you have somebody as talented as yourself that understands the implications as far as it would be different if the thing that I just have a hard time with is there's so many other sports that we're sold a dream of how being a professional, and it's not even just being a Tomac or anything. It's, hey, if I could just be a backup rider, how come none of these teams have a full-blown backup rider that's on payroll? Could you be making 50 grand a year just in case Ken Roxon or some sort of satellite team got hurt? Like, to me, that's an awesome gig, but it doesn't happen. It's so sad. It's so sad, but I thank you for answering it.
Jake, I really appreciate you coming on with us. I told you to only keep you 20 minutes to half an hour. I think we've gone right about a half an hour. So, dude, thank you. Congratulations. 19th on a stock bike. Dude, are you kidding me? I'm impressed.
Thank you.
How do you say your last name again?
It's Pinhancos.
Pinhancos. Okay, I got that. Is that right? Pinhancos?
Yeah, that's it.
Jake Pinhancos. I was like, Pinocchio, what is it? Like, yeah, Pinhancos.
You got a new fan, man. Yeah, a new fan.
I think you got me too. So congratulations. Thank you for taking the time with us. Is there anyone you want to thank or anything you want to say before we let you go?
I got so many people to thank, from my family, first and foremost. I wouldn't be able to do it without them. Obviously I can't do this all myself. A big portion of them, all my sponsors, they know who they are. They know I appreciate it. I'll say it again. I'll say it in front of everybody. I appreciate everything I get. It's tough to come by things, and the people who stuck around for the past 10 years or more, or the newer ones, thank you for everything.
Okay, hold on. One last question before I let you go. In the spirit of those silly questions they're asking all the guys on Peacock TV. So I'm going to go with one of my own. So if your friends you're in jail. If your friends had to guess what you did to get you out of jail, what would they guess?
what they did to get me out of jail?
No. So I go to your friends and I say, hey, Jake's in jail. If you can guess what he did, he gets out. What are they going to guess?
Oh,
that's a tough one, right?
Oh yeah. You know what? I could probably answer that. I probably robbed a bicycle shop for a new road bike.
Perfect. There we go. That's awesome. All right, Jake. Well, hey, thank you very much, man. And you have a wonderful evening, and thanks for joining us.
All right. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Jake.
What a good kid, man. That's awesome. I'm glad you got him to join us. Dude, stock bike. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
It was Southwick? One of the bikes that didn't blow up.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the first moto, like going against all those factory guys, no way. That's. Can somebody give this kid a ride?
Yeah,
but he's got to do some supercross though, coach.
Yeah, with him being up in the New England area, though, it's not conducive for locations, and as we all know, with the suspension and being on that every day, and just such an exact science. And it's difficult. I'm not going to say the boat that, the ship has sailed for him, but think about it. Can you imagine being 23 and all of a sudden you're going to be thrust and you got to figure it out? I will say he's smart enough to figure it out, and he would, he'll go out there with a fine tooth comb and dial it in if he gets the opportunity. But I think he's going to be that outdoor guy that if somebody's looking for a good, durable rider, and of course I'm biased because I've been fortunate enough to work with him for over 10 years. He's one of those guys, and Johnny, you can appreciate this from an investment standpoint. I'd put my own money down to say, you made a good investment on this guy, and he'll go the distance. One of the things that did not come across, and I certainly wouldn't want to embarrass him with him being on live, he is so painfully shy. It's not even funny. And for him to come on and to not stutter and chop up his words, you have no idea. His shoes are probably filled up with water. He's so uncomfortable. And I just want to give him props because he's been through a lot personally in this realm. To see him do as well as he did, not knowing the questions, not knowing what direction we were going to go, and just so calm, cool, and collected. It is so much bigger than what we just saw. He is the most humble dude you'll ever meet.
I didn't know that this was a fear of his, coach. Then I go throwing a personality question at him because they felt so comfortable. I was like, here, I'll just throw this at him.
He did a great job. He did a great job. Everyone should go on go follow him and support him. And I'm hoping with him making some pro points, he can get a 2-digit number this year. That'd be really sweet to see.
That'd be very cool.
Absolutely. And thinking of, you're talking about athletic maturity and durability. Roczen seems to be holding up a little better than I thought he would. He got passed by Tomac in that second moto, but the dude is fighting. And I said I would judge him when we got to these, the longer races. I don't know that anyone's going to beat Dylan, but there's no quit in Roczen. What'd you think of him out there, Johnny?
Dude, he's still within a moto of points. Nobody even, everyone thought I was stupid for saying that he was going to win the series.
Stupid.
And I still think that he has a good chance of winning the series. He's mature. He's not going to put himself on the ground because he's done that before, and he's lost a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of opportunities because of it. And I see he just needs one small slip up from the confidence that Dylan has, and he's right back in it.
Well, in the Yamaha, Plessinger's broke. That can happen.
As far as his motor blowing
staying
up.
within a moto. Yeah.
Oh yeah. We've seen something happens all the time with as many. You got 24 races. That's the reason why I've said before that I think that's why Tomac has won so many championships, is because he's been clearly the best guy to beat. And statistically, if you're given more opportunities, he's going to be out front. But the problem with Supercross is he had less opportunities. So when you made a mistake, you didn't have the time to make it up. And that's why he's only been a Supercross champ once and a motocross champ 3 times, at least.
He only makes it up when he feels like it. That's
I don't know. We could go back into the whole.
You could do every show on Tomac. That's just the way he is. But
you could.
Yeah. Coach, what did you think? You think we're dealing with a new Roczen here?
Yeah, I don't want to sound like a hypocrite here, so I'm going to stick to my original prediction when we were talking about the season. I think it's going to be interesting to see how the next 3 weeks look. We've had a break in between each, not every single moto or every single weekend, excuse me, but you have to give the guy the nod because he's gone further than 99% of us. The only other 1% is Hopper that thought he would go the distance. And again, all we could do is go off of track record, the fact that he's been sick, he's had his ups and his downs. If he can get through these next, because we've got 2 more weekends back to back, right?
Yep, 2 more, and then that's the 4 in a row.
That'll be the one, like Johnny's saying, if he gets through that unscathed and he can stay in that top 3 and keep the consistency, sure. We saw it this weekend. All it takes is 1 DNF because of a mechanical or, bent subframe or whatever goes wrong. It's definitely not over. Has he surprised me? Absolutely. Anybody that looked at our pre-race show, Shimoda surprised me as well. We'll get to that in the 250s, but yeah, I'm happy to see it because it goes back to what we said earlier. We need all of the best guys to be in the series to make it as exciting as it is. I don't think we've had much attrition rate at all in either one of the classes so far. So that's good. I think it's setting itself up to be a great second half of the season, at least outdoor wise.
Yeah. And then, Aaron Plessinger, he's been riding amazing this year, but his bike broke. But what cracked me up in the first Moto 2 was the podium speech. Did you catch that when Barsha's up there and then they started co-interviewing? This guy is just a pleasure. But what really got me with Plessinger was when his bike broke. He didn't throw a fit and storm off. They go, oh, he's going to the fence to watch the race and cheering his buddies. Like, how cool is that? Johnny.
And how authentic was that? Excuse me. How authentic was that?
Johnny, what did you think of that?
That Aaron Plessinger is one of the personalities that we need in the sport to help grow. Him and Jet are by far taking the flagship as far as what we need more from personalities in the sport. I love to see it. And I kind of wish that he would cut his hair, but I kind of wish like most of those guys would cut their
No.
hair, because I don't know what's with all the mustaches and the long hair. I mean,
he does look a little sex offenderish.
You said it, I did it.
It's just the look. I'm not saying he is. He's probably the nicest guy. I'm just, God damn, I should not have said that one. That's gonna probably get me in trouble.
Where you were supposed to be clean cut and you're supposed to look like, hey, please give me money because I race motorcycles. And it's just funny how some of these guys, they look like they don't have a job. They're just, panhandling on the corner. Not trying to be offensive. I'm just saying.
I love it though.
I don't.
Be who you are. Justin Barsha
True,
looks, I mean, he runs the
true.
beard, the hair. When he cleans up, it just doesn't look, it looks fake.
But when everyone is doing it, like it's the thing, like tattoos were cool at a time because nobody had tattoos. Now everybody's got tattoos. Now everybody's got a porn stash and a mullet. Maybe we should just move on to something else.
We still have Justin Cooper. He's about as normal as you get.
True.
There's a few guys that are still normal. Johnny, he's up there. Coach, what do you think of this whole porn stash mullet?
People are not going to like me for it. I just grew up with a military dad, and it's like, it just is not a look that I grew up accustomed to. So to me, again, there's going to be some really hateful comments on this one, but I'm going to go there because, like we always say, let's just not pussyfoot around and just be honest. You asked me what my opinion is. I think when you want credibility, you have to create credibility with an appearance and in a look. Now, I'm not saying, just at least comb it, at least make it look somewhat clean. I don't understand the porn stash thing. It doesn't matter what sport. As everybody knows, we do a lot in the triathlon realm. They're all running porn stashes there as well. I don't know how. I know everything comes full circle, but I only feel bad for these young riders because in about 20 years, when they're looking back at videos and photos and they look at that and they're going, what in the hell was I thinking? Because I look creepy.
No, that's what marks the era. I'm not gonna lie. You two guys, do you guys sit home and throw rocks at people when you'll get off my lawn?
Dude, I'm gonna be like the old guy from Up. That's just that fucking asshole nobody likes. But no, to your point, it's marketing, and one way to market yourself is to look different. I just think that everyone looks the same and should differentiate just a little bit. But no, it's digressing.
Okay. Barsha, what do you guys think? So he's the only guy that really has been up there on a steel frame bike. Johnny, what the hell is going on with this Austrian brand of all of them? They suck.
They're monopolizing. So
why are they getting their ass kicked so bad then?
I don't know.
My weed whackers are crushing them. It's not even fair.
Your weed whackers are crushing. My gravestone is gonna say, Johnny pissed on weed whackers, and so you should piss on his grave, kind of a thing. But I'm thinking it's more of, again, it's a support thing. You've got KTM, you've got Husky, and now you've got Gas. How are they going to give everybody the proper support when you have just one Yamaha team, you have like just one Kawasaki team, you have right now just like one Honda team? I'm just thinking they're spread too thin. It's going to take them a couple years to build up. I think they shouldn't got rid of Bobby Hewitt. There's a lot of little things, but I personally, I love the steel frame. I think it helps a lot with arm pump and it just being able to flex a little bit. But again, we're talking factory bikes with factory parts.
Well, only some guys get them, right, Johnny?
If the production allows, yes, it's a thing. Is if they're available, yes, these teams are obviously going to get them. But I think with COVID, with the manufacturing, everything has gone down. Who knows if these factory ECUs and special stuff are available, and they could just be hard to come by. But again, this is something that's going on worldwide. We're looking at lumber. We're looking at price of gas, just everything. Like there's a reason why production is down on everything when you have a supply and demand thing, and it's seeped over to motorcycle racing, even the sales of motorcycles and everything. So
something happened in the last year.
Yeah, like exactly.
There was a pandemic. I missed that one. So just kidding.
Bunch of just political humbo jumbo type stuff. But yeah, it fucked everybody up. And it's pretty bad that the privateers probably made more money during COVID than they do actually racing motorcycles, because the government was paying them. And then they probably had an essential job that, being a construction worker and everything. I'm just throwing it out there that's it, the irony.
You're not wrong. I know, well, my buddy Travis Delnicki, I hope he doesn't get in trouble for this, but may or may not have been collecting a unemployment check and racing. So possibly. Okay. AC, Adam Cincerillo.
Can I just say something real quick, Chris?
Yes.
When you go back to that results of the KTM, and then you look at the results of not KTM, but gas, and then you look at Yamaha.
Yeah.
But I want to go back to your point about Barsha, specifically on gas. I think it's the ultimate timing, because if you look at the fact that we got the Yamaha program underneath the Star program, who was driving the helm at Star Yamaha? Will Hahn. Where did Will Hahn just recently go to?
Gas.
And look at the results of Barsha. I find that extremely ironic timing. Again, the verdict's not out. You can't make a declaration in one event, but I do find it interesting. Like, if you look at, we've even talked about it on our show, even Johnny's talked about it on his as well. The idea that you got away from the upper brass at Yamaha, where it takes 6 years to get a decision, and you saw nobody could ride the Yamaha. They move it over to Star Yamaha, and all of a sudden, wham, the 450's out there winning races, where we all laughed about it. I mean, we did it when we did the show.
Johnny laughed about it.
But Johnny had justification for it because it was horrible, right? I mean, the guys couldn't get a start.
It wasn't that bad, but yes.
It was that bad at the pro level. Okay. It was that bad. Go back and look at the results. We joked about it, but the results don't lie. But
Barsha's results are exactly the same, Coach.
No, I understand that. But here's the difference. Yamaha has now moved into the Star program, and Will Hahn was there, and all the engineers and all of that. Let's just, as Johnny says, the environment got better for the team. We see Plessinger be allowed to be himself, and Ferrandis is allowed to do what he's doing in bike configuration and setup. And yet we had some guys that left Yamaha that said, look, all I did was butt my head against a glass ceiling and couldn't get anything done, so they left. Now all of a sudden you've got Will Hahn that goes over to Gas. Did he get inside of Barsha's head? Is it that 1 degree perspective change? I just found it was really interesting. If you look at where the trail of Will Hahn has gone, and all of a sudden, boom, he's there. And all of a sudden we see Barsha, because what round was it? Round 2, where Barsha got a second or a third place start and went nowhere but backwards. And now all of a sudden
he's had a couple decent motos, but that was.
But it looked totally different this weekend. Is all I'm saying. So I'll be very curious to see what the next couple of rounds look like.
Before Johnny's got to go. He's got a baby and a wife who texted me and let me know that Johnny's got to go.
Yeah,
she didn't actually text me, but I know Johnny's got to go. So
let's not bring that stuff in there. Like what I said before we were recording, and then now this shit. Chris, dude, do we need a?
Anyway, Johnny. Anyway, back to the that team and training. I did get some news, Johnny, and I want your opinion on this. So Malcolm Stewart looks like he's going to be on Husqvarna in the Baker's factory. What do you think, dude? Do you think the Baker's factory is what Malcolm needs? Because I feel like he's a guy that needs structure.
Malcolm has talent. He's got speed. The one thing that he's missing is structure. I mean, if his brother's show, the old Bubba show that was on Fuel TV or whatever, saw anything that Malcolm was just kind of floating around, he was talented and he could get away with it. But I think it's a good thing for him. It's something that he hasn't tried before, and that might be the magical thing. So you need to always constantly try to reinvent yourself and try different things to see what fits. I know a lot of people give Alden an obscene amount of money, and they get to the point where they're like, they think they could just do it on their own and take the information that kind of more or less kind of steal from him, because they've been part of the program, and then now they're going to kind of implement it in their own way. But to answer your question, dude, it could be his year. I mean, I'm not going to put him out, because if the whole track is whoops, he's winning hands down. Supercross, if it's all whoops, he's winning.
Of course. But yeah, I don't know. This is not confirmed yet, but it sure looks like this deal is going to happen. And I see, Coach, you're dying to get in. What's your opinion on this one, Coach?
No, I'm in no hurry to get in my 2 cents worth. I just don't think he'll do the work. I think it's yes, I'll agree to do it. And I think it's going to be he's not going to do the work. It's just my biased opinion. It's not a jab on Malcolm. It's not a jab on anybody. Where else is he going to go? It's a prerequisite to be at Husky. It's the only place for him to go. But it's just like when James was told that he had to go up to JGR. He's the first guy that, even though their model said, you will live here and you will do it our way, James was the first one to say, no, we're not. And Malcolm still has the last name behind it. And I think that that will backfire if you try to make him do it. It will make the program look incredibly silly. That's my 2 cents worth.
Yeah. Okay, Johnny.
Disagree.
I do disagree. Johnny, where can people find you?
MX
Unfiltered on YouTube.
I don't know.
Google hated Moto Media guy. And we both come up when you do that, but
I'm on the dark net.
Awesome. Thank you, Johnny. And you have a good night. Take care of that family.
Awesome. I appreciate it, guys.
Thanks,
Always
Johnny.
mad respect. Love you guys.
Love you, bud. Peace.
Later. Coach, it's down to just us. Back to just you and I for the show.
No, it's good stuff to have.
It's
both
been
of them,
good.
man.
Johnny cracks me up. He's a funny dude. So did you see in the 450 class Christian Craig eat shit in practice and smack his head?
I did not see it. I talked to somebody that we both know that's very involved in his program, and he said it took a lot of wind out of his sails, because I had reached out to him and gave him props on the results, but I hadn't seen the accident. But he said he was banged up pretty bad on it, and then he was kind enough to send me the link, and I'm like, damn, son, that was pretty big.
I was surprised they let him race, but then again, we both know there's really no concussion protocol. They've kind of gotten rid of that, and it's really up to the teams to say, hey, and they're not going to. But man, I just seeing that, it scares me. I don't like that, because then you send him back out there, and yes, he did good and it went okay. Just like the McAdoo went okay the first race, but then not so much after that. Man, I just wish that there was a way. I wish these people cared more about the riders than I think they do.
Well, it goes back to what we said earlier. It's just it's a culture of, you're a disposable entity, and if you're not willing to do what we ask you to do, there's somebody else behind you. And as long as there's parents, agents, whoever you want to point fingers at that allow those decisions to be made, it's going to continue to prevail. It's again, this seems like it's a subject that we've talked about numerous times. It gets swept under the mat. You got your same small little group of people that follow certain threads, that like to throw stones, and they want to act like they know more than everybody else does. The reality of it is you're being incredibly ignorant. You're being incredibly insensitive to the idea that there is no other sport. And I go back to the illustration that I gave earlier. There's no other sport that I'm personally involved with. And we're very, very, very fortunate that we're nearly in every single discipline that's out there, from BMX to triathlon to mountain biking to Formula One race. We're involved in all of these different disciplines. I don't see this type of behavior. I don't see this being a mindset on the team. Can you imagine? And I'm going to use the Formula One show that everybody keeps referencing. Okay. Isn't it interesting that when those guys have a bad accident, look at the litmus test that they have to go through before they're even allowed to get back in a car. Granted, it's a 1630. I don't know what's the dollar amount of a Formula One race car. And before the listeners, again, want to throw stones at me, they're going, oh, well, it's a $30 million car. Okay. So now you're telling me that the money matters more than the rider, because you put a bigger dollar value on it, because maybe a factory 450 is worth what? 100K? I don't know. I would
say 100.
Okay. So you're going to tell me because the Formula One's race is worth 30 and our motorcycle is only worth 100. So now you've put a value and a price point on somebody's head, concussion. And I said it before, and I'll continue to say it. And I'm sure I'll get a couple of jaded comments below, which is fine. What's it going to take? Somebody dying on live television for us to go, that we probably should put some stopgaps in there. And I do not mean to bring up a very volatile subject. Okay. I was working with Dan Weldon and his family when he lost his life. What was the catalyst that came out of that accident? They changed the roll cages in the IRL. That's not a roll cage, but they changed that cockpit. What happened when Dale Earnhardt lost his life at Daytona 500? Exactly. So my point,
that's my point, is no matter what we do, Coach, it's going to be dangerous. NASCAR is still
Absolutely.
dangerous.
I understand
so
that,
Supercross, but we have to look at aspects to make it safer as it goes faster and so forth.
But this is where I get a little bit frustrated when you look at McAdoo bangs his head and what carnage ensued for the next 2 to 3 race weekends. It's not my biased opinion. I didn't get jumped on, but Chris Bloss was pretty vocal about it. And he
Pierce
is a
Brown
very
that got stepped on.
Pierce Brown.
There's like
But
7 different incidents.
But it's not you and I just talking about it. You have the athletes that had to pay the price because of a system that doesn't protect their own riders because it's influenced by the 3 or 4 teams that exist. Again, we're not naive. We know that money drives the machine. We know politics. There's not a single sport out there that's immune to it. But if you bring it back full circle, when we really say that we're out there for the safety of the riders, and it's going to be absolutely atrocious when somebody dies on live television because of a head injury situation that then cascades into a bigger issue that causes something that I hope it never comes to fruition. I hope it's a concept that we'll just always talk about. But I think even in the last Supercross series, we had plenty of illustrations that there's a couple ways that we could have. And that's what I want the listeners to really think about. We're not trying to coddle our sport. That's what some of the little keyboard experts like to go into. It's a man's sport, toughen up, pussy, blah, blah. Really? Really? You're missing the entire point of the conversation. We know it's dangerous. We know that these riders will race every weekend. We know it's a passion sport. So should they not get paid even though it's their passion? Should they not be? Sometimes we're not in a good headspace to make our own decisions. That's why you should have a medical team that has a series of assessments. And I go back to, I believe it was Michael Lieb, was it not? And it was probably 5-6 years ago. And
yes,
he had
the beginnings when they were going to implement an actual concussion protocol system.
And all he did was tip over. And it set that gauge off in his head.
Yes.
All he did was lose the front end over a roller, and he could not race that evening. What the hell happened to that criteria? And yes, Michael Lieb was pissed.
Coach, I actually know what happened to that. Our buddy Eddie Casillas broke that all down for us, and how money shot that down. And the catalyst for where it finally got clipped was Forrest Butler, my buddy. That shocker that this guy's involved. Wanted his guy, Benny Bloss, to race. They had Benny Bloss in the concussion protocol, and he didn't go to see the doctor ahead of time. And they're like, you can't race. And Forrest flipped out, blamed it on Eddie, said Eddie was charging him to do this difference. It was complete bullshit. But the teams and everybody was like, well, wait, what? And then they let Eddie go. And then now it's like almost a voluntary program.
But I think that's incredibly interesting because it's not my opinion. It's not your opinion. It's not hearsay. Eddie Castillo has talked about this publicly. Here's Eddie Casillas, yeah. Excuse me. Here is the situation. Here's what materialized. And now look at what we've got. And, obviously we have an affinity for Christian Craig. We like his program. We like the people that are around him. It's not that immediate group. It should be the association for the benefit and the longevity of our sport and its marketing. And if you're going to say that, suck it up, Buttercup, they should be allowed to race no matter what, then you're missing the point of the conversation. Because if a professional baseball player gets hit straight in the head while he's batting on a 100-mile-an-hour fastball, his ass is not coming back out in the next inning. You can guarantee it. So quit picking on us and look at the lack of respect that the association is not giving to the riders and their own health.
Well, we're behind the times. Football has a third party now. Watch those. The coach can't say whether the guy's in or out. If they take a hit and they see it, that third party goes, that guy's out.
And where'd the third party come from? Where'd the third party come from?
Lawsuits and all the crazy stuff that happened after concussions. They said, listen, we cannot have a coach, nor the coach's trainer, who is literally tied to them. They need a third party, an independent third party, to check these guys out before you put them back in.
And who hired the third independent party?
That's the NFL.
Well, NFL and the players union.
Yes,
because the players
they have somebody
union,
who protects the players. Shocker.
That's my point.
Yes,
that's exactly it. So for you keyboard experts that want to go all rogue on us, please. We're not trying to pick a fight. We're not trying to rip a scab off. We're trying to ask the why behind, does this stuff happen? And if you don't want to use our sport, use your second favorite sport outside of Moto or Supercross and ask yourself, whatever sport you love to watch, if one of your players, athletes, whatever category of sport you're in, gets injured, what does that association do for the sake of that individual? If you can help me run it through that filter and then compare it to our sport, I'm happy to have a conversation with you. That's all I'm saying.
Let's even go back to the fights, the Conor McGregor fight. Conor didn't get to decide whether he continued. If he could have stood up on the broken ankle, it doesn't matter. the commission, the Nevada State Athletic Commission, not the UFC, comes in and says he's not fit to fight. It's over. There's no, he protects the fighter. That's it. The referee does not work for the UFC. They have to have some sort of a third party to protect athletes
from themselves.
Yes, because and they have this mentality. They're fucking warriors, coach.
Absolutely.
They're
incredible.
You take any of these guys, nobody's going to bow out.
No,
they'll ride till they're dead. You have to have someone else who's willing to protect them. And that's why I say I don't blame McAdoo for what happened. McAdoo did everything he was supposed to do in trying to get back on that bike. Yes. It's the cowards around him who didn't say no. That's the coward. It's really dangerous when people around a warrior also think they're taking liberties with his life and everyone else out there.
I totally agree. And if you continue to roll it backwards, why did he want to get back on the motorcycle so badly? Same reason why Jake would get on the motorcycle, the same way you would, Hopper, and anybody else. But here's the difference. Just because we think we can and we should doesn't mean that we should,
Absolutely.
And we can talk about this and do an entire show on it. Again, for those that want to get all rogue with us on comments and DMs, please don't waste your energy leaving a nasty message unless you want to engage in a dialogue about the fact that we're discussing. Not saying it's a pansy sport and all this other stupid, and I'm sorry, I don't mean to say stupid, but just the way some of these people, they take the subject and completely spin it out of context. Like, oh, you guys just are trying to make a bunch of pansies out of these guys. It's their choice. I understand that. It doesn't make it right, though.
If you want to have a factual discussion, I'm all in. If you want to just say stupid shit, I'm probably going to delete your comment.
Yeah,
just
I'm with you, brother. Yeah.
250s. Boy, your guy Hunter Lawrence looked good. So let's refresh everybody. You and Johnny have $100 bet for dinner, or a dinner bet. He took Jet. You took Hunter. I thought you were out of it, man. He's only 26 points behind Jet right now. Who would have guessed that?
Well, it goes back to, this is a guy that has many miles under his belt. And we've all heard this great stories about him and his family selling literally everything they own, going and doing the MXGPs. I don't want to take credit for something that I brought out a couple months ago, but let's not forget the only reason why those two boys are here is because of Hunter, and because he was brought over under the eye. I believe Ziggy over at Geico was the first one to see him and offer him a ride to come over. And yes, the team ended up folding for multitude of reasons. But the idea here is, we know Hunter has had 2 years of nothing but injuries. Goes back. That's why I did my Instagram post about, I really respect Myrtle, because there's a lot riding on these riders. I have to give, and Chris, you're more involved with it than I am. What do you consistently hear about Ziggy and Myshek over at Geico? They're men's. They're great guys. They treat you respectfully. Here's Jeremy Martin with a broken back. They both said, look, we're extending your contract. We've all heard we've all heard fantastic conversations about those two gentlemen. We've heard the same thing about Bobby Hewitt, et cetera, et cetera. There's a few that have really stand out in our sport. But when you bring it back to Hunter, they kept their nose to the grindstone. You got Jet that got the lion's share of momentum. Obviously, he's done a fantastic job of marketing himself, as we talked about even on our show previously. Is that a marketing thing? Is that an agent thing? Is that a Jets thing? Is that a Alpine Star, Red Bull? We don't know. It's a hell of a combination. That's for damn sure. But I just don't know how you could ever cut out Hunter. The only thing that I said to you guys very early on, before the series even began, was I didn't know if the Hondas were going to be able to have the horsepower to compete against Star. We saw it with J Mart and against Ferrandis last year.
And one of the things I agreed with you. I wasn't sure either.
Well, one of the things I want to talk about, and I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, is we're not seeing the Star Yamahas, all three bikes coming across that chalk line first every weekend like we used to. Husqvarna, both motos. You got the Hondas that are right there. Something's changed, because we know the Yamahas haven't slowed down. But my point being is, now all of a sudden, let's say it's a horsepower game, because we saw that at the Wick. I mean, that starting line is nothing but a horsepower game. You saw 2 Huskies, 2 Hondas, and 2 Yamahas in the first turn, both motos. So if all of a sudden they've got that part figured out, all of a sudden now Hunter and Jet are very, very competitive. Hunter, that's his forte. And that track this weekend was so European. I was yelling at my computer screen at Jalik Swole, because he kept getting passed by RJ on the outside. Even after RJ fell, RJ just opened everything up. And I was like, Jalik, follow him, follow him. You keep wanting to ride the inside line, which is understandable, but he didn't adapt as quickly. And then he finally got it going in the second moto. I was like, ooh, finally.
Okay, while you're talking about Jalik, dear God, that save. Have you ever seen a better save? Poor Jet didn't save it.
Poor Jet, yeah.
I mean, he cross-rutted, shot sideways. I felt like he was doing a knack off the bike, and all of a sudden
he's like a cat.
And then he lands and Jet hits him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, and he still stayed up.
Yeah, it was amazing. He's like a cat with an impeccable balance. You know what I mean? It's like you throw a cat in the air and it always lands on its feet. No, it was unbelievable. And I'm still in on Hunter. Like you said, I've been watching the points behind the scenes. We're not out of this by any stretch of the imagination.
Oh, now you're we.
What's that, bud?
Did you say we talking about Hunter?
I don't know. I may have.
You did. And I'm like, oh boy, you're part of the team now.
No, it'll be interesting because he's still, if you look at it mathematically, as silly as the points are, 26. The way they are. Yeah, I mean, that's the way the two moto format.
With
all we got to do is look at Plessinger. Points. Yeah, just look at Plessinger and it can shift just like that. And I hate to bring it up. Poor RJ had a chain break, 2 races ago. Stuff happens. It's not always just a grenading of the motor, something silly like that. You could watch a wheel disintegrate. I mean, we've seen that before, on the last lap. So.
Well, let's go right into RJ. RJ, I think we should call him the human highlight reel. They're more an exciting guy to watch. I mean, he's up, he's down, he's railing out sides.
Yeah.
He's his own highlight show.
Absolutely.
Just put we need the RJ cam. That's it. Just keep the cam on RJ. One cam at all times on RJ. That's
just
it.
have a drone following him around.
Yes, that's it. We don't miss what RJ's going to do something. We just don't miss it.
The thing that I loved about RJ though was when they asked him about it, he's like, they hit the big nail on the head. Are you pushing it? Are you making mistakes? He's like, no. He goes, it's just stuff's happening. He didn't make excuses for it. He didn't blame the bike. Track's too rough. He's like, yeah, I'm not doing it on purpose, but I'm not going to back it down either. And I'm like, yes, thank you. Because it's like when AC was falling and people are like, oh, you should tune it down. That's when you get hurt. You have your riding style, and that's RJ's riding style. Was he a little too heavy in one corner, a little too light in the corner, and he knifes the front end? I didn't ride Southwick. You didn't ride Southwick. But when he was on that far outside lane and he was going to rail it and he hits that soft stuff and it just buckles, probably the lap before that was that line stuck. This time it didn't. Look at Jet Lawrence. After he knocked his visor and took his goggles off, same thing in that sweeper right-hander. Just all of a sudden the front end, was he too far back, too far forward? Probably yes to both, if that's possible.
Well, and the one thing that RJ does better than anyone, and Langston kept talking about it, is he gets up and he's right back at speed.
Right back at it.
Okay, just if you guys ride locally, don't crash on the track, but just go ride, pull off, lay your bike down, pick it up, and take off, and just see how you feel.
Watch your heart rate.
Brutal. Watch your heart rate, and try and go back up there. You just can't find that. He jumps right in like he didn't miss a beat. I don't know how he does it. I honestly don't know. That skill alone is amazing.
It was. Yep.
And then Joe Shimoda, the modern day Mike LaRocco. I don't even notice him until the results coach, but he's always there.
Yeah, I mean, all I can go back to is what a great. And I'm going to sound a little, I don't know what the adjective would be for this. Remember when Mitch had the golden touch? Everything he touched turned into a number 1 plate. Ricky Carmichael, yes. Grant Langston, Ivan Tedesco. I mean, how many number 1 plates does he have on the side of that rig? Unbelievable.
We had the best bikes at that time too.
He did. And the thing that I find interesting is if you go back to Mitch on Whiskey Throttle and they said, why'd you add a 5th person? And, you look at this, obviously hindsight's 2020, but what a smart executive decision. You figure he's probably paying him what, 40, 50 grand. Probably the least.
I think he was getting bonuses only this year.
Probably the least expensive guy on the team and the highest finisher consistently. And now with the podium with the 2nd place, great investment. I know that Myrtle put a picture of Shimoda signing a contract about 3-4 weeks ago.
2-year deal. With
Cowie at per circuit. Okay. Yep. It's funny. I've never heard, I saw the Myrtle Instagram picture, but I never heard what that, like, why hasn't that come out public? Well, never mind. That's a silly question.
Well, Myrtle, I think Myrtle is smart doing that. He's not hiding it. He just wants us all talking about it.
My point is nobody's been talking about it because literally that's when you said that, that's the first time I've heard about it. So
well, I just texted him. He wasn't hiding it. He's just waiting
No,
for
no,
someone
no.
to ask.
No. I'm just saying amongst ourselves, it was kind of like,
yeah.
when we heard that Wilhelm was leaving and everyone's like, oh, you're an idiot. There's no way he's leaving. And we're like, okay, keep telling us we're idiots. And then all of a sudden it comes out on a couple websites. Oh, wow, Wilhelm's leaving. And guess what? Once again, we were correct. But no, just Joe Shimoda, best investment PC's got. I hope maybe Myrtle can go back to the drawing board and probably needs to change that 2-year contract that he's got there. Because if the ink's dried, I don't know how you go back. Maybe Mitch saw some writing on the wall and got that contract signed early, because I would think he'd have a lot more negotiating power here in the next six rounds.
Yeah. And then Jet, don't call me Jet Reynolds, Lawrence.
Yes.
Oh. I got that on our last show. I'm like, oh, we call him Jet Reynolds like 4 times.
I know.
Jet, and don't call me Reynolds, Lawrence.
It's so hard being around, the amateur scene and watching him grow up on those 85s, and it just always is a default. But hey, and props to Jet, because he's brought a new name into that pro ranks that we didn't see him grow up. So he gets that quite often. Even some other talking pundits call him that accidentally, and it's just because we haven't seen him literally grow up before our eyes here. There's not a lot of people named
Jet either.
Absolutely,
it's a very uncommon
pretty
name.
Cool.
And they're both really badass dudes. And I'm sure Reynolds will be here in a year, and then we'll get really confused.
Well, Lawrence just showed grit, determination. I mean, just pile driving his head into the ground, like you say, with the Jalek get off. Thank goodness he's strong and flexible. He got right back up. Thank goodness the bike wasn't mangled. That was my concern, the way it kind of ricocheted off the back of the bike, and it looked like it just yard darted onto that right side. I was like, he's going to pick it up. The whole right side of the bar is going to be down by the shroud. And I'll be like, well, there goes his points lead. It was already bad enough as it was, but.
And let's be clear to the internet people who are going to say Jalek, blah, blah. Jalek, that was a mistake. Jalek cross-threaded before that. That was not intentional. There was no ill will. That was an accident. And I don't even think, it's not like Jalek has a reputation of riding crazy. It was just a freak thing, guys. That's just Moto.
So. Well, if you go and look at Max Volan's Instagram, he has a picture of him going up the face, and those damn ruts are like literally 3 feet. There's 12 of them up the face to get, front wheel in one rut and the rear wheel in the other. Because if you look at the camera angle as Jalek is coming at us, looks like he's doing the X Games for how flat can you possibly get. Because I mean, and like you said, he certainly isn't going to want to do that in a motocross race. It's just the face of some of those faces of the jumps. I was like, for the love of God, I'm glad I'm not hitting them, because they were so deep up the face of them. You could almost kind of see them pre-jump halfway up so they wouldn't catch their pegs off the takeoff. I was like, that stuff is deep. It's incredible.
Yeah. Well, what was cool about this track is part of it was almost hard packed and part of it was soft. And it had that 2 inches of soft with the hard underneath. So it was really tricky.
So
I don't know if that's in particular with the track prep this year, but every track has seen it so far. So I have to think it is, but it looks good and I love it.
Well, it's the second track in 2 weekends that we thought we were going to have monsoons. So they sealed it. And then there's still
let's seal them all, coach.
Well, the challenge was yet again, the chance of rain was there. I mean, look at the amount of rain they got the night before. What'd they say, 5-6 inches or something crazy. So, and we know what Southwick can look like when it's a mud bath. I think we got ideal conditions considering a damn hurricane just was over it 3 days earlier or whatever, week earlier, whatever that timeline was. But no, I agree. It's a very difficult track to ride, no doubt.
And then Jeremy Martin, we talked about him a little bit, but I kind of I don't want to go too much because it was Jake's time and I didn't want to take Jake Pinhancos.
Yep.
Jake Pinhancos. We didn't want to take his time. But I disagree with you, coach. I think it's okay that he's out there, and I think it's his choice to be out there. I don't think they're forcing him. Am I wrong there? I think he just doesn't want to stay home because he's been out for so long. I mean, this guy sat out for almost 2 years with a back injury.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a ride for next year. Yes, he wants to stay fresh with everybody. And I think he's just like, he just wants to be out there. So
I totally get that. I mean, if you've ever spent any time around Alex and Jeremy, they're two of the most hardworking, dedicated. They do not like to sit on the sidelines. They don't like to collect a free check. I mean, Alex is already back out racing, 4 weeks after breaking his arm. I mean, the guys are just badasses all the way around. I guess where I maybe disagree with you a little bit, and not in a disrespectful way, it's just he's a defending champion. If Malcolm Stewart can continue to get a ride every year, how in the world could Jeremy Martin not get a ride when he's good both indoors and outdoors? I think if I was his agent, if I was somebody that's saying, okay, how do we get the most equity for Jeremy? How about deliver him when he's healthy instead of like we've all discussed and even complained about the idea that the season is so long. Do they really get enough time? Because think about it, he's probably going to change bike colors. So now he's going to have to learn another bike color. He's going to probably have to move, probably get a house closer to wherever everybody trains. And he's already at 65, 70%. And then obviously the physiologist in me, look at the new injuries we have with the broken fingers because he can't hold on to the bars. He's got a shoulder that's still not 100%. I look at that. Remember when we were back at High Point and they, our buddies over at Moto Aftermath, they had that video of Forkner casing it and just literally rips his hand, Forkner's right hand, right off the bars.
Oh yeah. Redbud.
Yeah. Excuse me. Redbud. Okay. So can you imagine all of a sudden Jeremy just gets a little wheel spin off of a jump that, you know, he can clear all day long and he comes up a half a bike length short and we get that blowout through the wrist on, he's already got a scaphoid. He's got 2 fingers and a shoulder. For what? To be running around in 10th or 11th place. You know, we're not seeing the best of him.
Be top 5. I mean, he was top 5 at Redwood, but I don't know. I think if he's okay riding 5th and work, sometimes you can ride through injuries, and that's his choice to describe whether it's one of those injuries or not. Yes, it sounds bad when you start adding him up, but I leave that up to him. He's a vet. He knows.
I totally agree with you on that. But again,
head injury.
But we go back to these guys can become their own worst enemy. Yes. That's where I look at the wise counsel that's around him. I think it'd be better for him to go get healthy. You go back and you backdoor this entire conversation. If he doesn't have a guaranteed ride for next year, I want you to go. I shouldn't have even made that comment because it's not relevant to what I'm going to say. Think about when you're racing against somebody. Let's go back. Let's say even last year, it was a 2-man race. It was Ferrandis and J-Mart. Right? So you and I are on the gate. We're like, man, those 2 guys have the momentum. All of a sudden now one of the guys gets injured and you're able to bang bars with him. He's not able to just absolutely walk you, i.e. Ken Roczen. Before Ken Roczen got hurt, people would like part the seas for him because he had all the momentum, right?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden Roczen saw that he had some chinks in his armor. I'm not minimizing the injuries and the infections. We get that. But now people started to believe that they could beat Roczen. And then they started. So now the confidence and the momentum.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's what I get concerned about with Jeremy, because now he's back there in 10th place, banging bars with XYZ, where they never even saw him last year. That gives the secondary rider confidence to go, wait a second, he is beatable. Now, all of a sudden we get a momentum change. And as you know, Jeff Emega has said it for years, I'd rather have momentum than a points lead. Jeff said it over and over again. And that's what I get concerned about with Jeremy is we're sitting here talking about the here and now, but we look fast forward ahead when Ken Roczen was killing everybody in RCH. Everybody knew they were racing for second. Then all of a sudden we had enough races where Roczen was injured, tried to come back through anchor, went backwards. Was it fatigue? Was it Lyme disease? Was it whatever? Again, we never know. That's not what we're talking about, but it gave other people confidence that, you know what, I can compete with Roczen and maybe even beat him occasionally. Now, all of a sudden we see that with Tomac. Tomac was so far in front, nobody saw him unless he lapped you. Now, all of a sudden people realize, hey, I can bang bars with Tomac, and they're not afraid to put an elbow in on him. Look at that momentum change. And man, I don't want that for J-Mart.
Yeah, I hear you. No, and then that's a very valid point. I mean, and I was thinking that too. It almost changes your mentality too. If you're getting 4th, 5th, and it's almost like that law of attraction, you just become the 4th or 5th guy, even when you're healthy. It's weird how that actually develops, but yeah, Coach, we have been on for quite a while today, so I'm going to let you go. Where can people find you?
If you would take some time and go check out CompleteRacingSolutions.com. That's where we have our membership area. We have some customized coaching programs there. Please check us out. If you guys have anything that you're dealing with specifically, please feel free to email us. Hit my assistant Jennifer up at contact@coachrob.com. And if you're a YouTube guy, Coach Rob Beams with 2 B's, you can go over to YouTube and you can find all kinds of videos on strength or flexibility, nutrition. There's swim videos, cycling videos, running videos. It's a big resource for everybody. So please check us out. And then if you're into Instagram, follow me at Complete Racing Solutions is our Instagram channel as well.
Awesome. And I want to make sure to thank Jake Pinhancos. Jake Pinhancos. I'm going to remember Pinhancos. One of these days.
Okay.
Jake Pinhancos and the legend Johnny Hopper. That was awesome.
It's good to have him.
And then, his wife let us have him for about an hour or so. I appreciate that. So Paige, thank you.
Thank you, Paige.
I want to thank Energy Fuel. I love this stuff, Rob. It's like 120 out right now. I keep getting dehydrated. I go outside, I do different stuff. I've been riding this little electric scooter and it's stalled about 5 miles from my house. I had to push it back. I was dying. So I grabbed some Energy Fuel and it rehydrated me right back up. It was awesome.
Nice.
EBC brakes, clutches. Dylan Ferrandis, maybe want to get a lot more of these clutches for your bike, the way that thing's smoking. Just saying. Decor Visuals, best graphics out there, and our media partners who aren't scared of anything. 2-4 Speed. So anything else you want to talk about, Coach?
No, man, it's always a pleasure. I say at the closing of every show, but I mean it sincerely. Thanks to all of our listeners. Thanks to all the new listeners. Welcome. Those that have stuck with us through some quagmires here or there. Thanks for sticking it out with us. And thanks for sticking with us on our shows as they get a little bit longer. We hope we're bringing you some more meat on the bone. Continue to let us know questions that you have. You and I talked about this off the record. It's cool. People DMing us and sending us emails and stuff, asking what the heck's going on with this and what's going on with that. That warms my heart, not to sound fluffy, but it's cool that people feel comfortable enough that they can reach out and go, what's going on with this? Or what, because I think this is kind of funny. Our listeners, they have an eagle eye. They catch a lot of stuff that goes on.
Yes, they do.
And I'm always intrigued at the DMs and the emails that you and I get, and we share with each other like, hey, didn't see that, or hey, that was a pretty cool perspective, or that's a good question. And so listeners, good job.
Very educated. I found the majority of our audience is very educated, very enthusiastic, and damn, I 99% of them I love talking with back and forth. And I've a couple of them, like I said, that you've caught me and stuff, and I've been wrong, and I'm not afraid to admit it. Hey, one thing, we're not always right.
No,
that's how I learned, Coach. That's how we learn. That's how you learn. The day I stopped learning, just put me out of my misery.
But we want it to be an environment where, and you and I talked about this when you and I were out in Arizona together. We want to cultivate an environment where people feel safe to ask questions instead of being just called you're an idiot or a jackass or you're stupid or there's no way that happens or what. That's not the environment we're trying to create. I'm not a snowflake kind of guy.
Yeah, we're not necessarily doing a safe space, but
no.
You know what? Bring your logic, bring your facts, leave your personal attacks at home. We don't need, if it has to start with you're an idiot, it's probably a wrong statement. Don't say it. Just, if it says, if you have to attack a person about anything other than the subject we're talking about, just leave it out.
Yeah. I just can't thank the listeners enough because you and I talked about it off the air. It's just, I'm amazed at the depth of questions and the amount of questions that we're getting. And I want to encourage the listeners, whether you've been with us from the beginning or you're new, this is, we want it to be an environment. Please call us out. Tell us why you disagree. Bring things to our attention. I mean, we love the sport. We try to keep our nose to the ground, but hey guys, thank you for bringing things to our attention, asking questions. I love that you see that. Chris, I like a couple of the emails that we got at the very end. They're like, can you please help me understand why? I'm like, yes, you get it. That's the platform of our show. Why is this happening? Why is this not happening? It's not a witch, but I'm not going to go down that bunny trail. No. Listeners, thank you. Thank you for being insightful. Thank you for bringing things to our attention, asking questions. Please continue to do so. We're more than happy to help.
Yep.
Good
Coach,
stuff.
You have a good evening. Have fun out in San Diego.
Thanks,
and if
brother.
you can get a Cooksey and the Coach mention on Whiskey Throttle.
You got it, brother.
I'm kidding.
You got it.
Don't worry about it. All right, man. You have a good night, Coach.
Thanks, bud. Peace.